Hey guys, welcome to episode 22 Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
And I'm Ron.
Last couple episodes, we've been doing some history about track builders, American raceways, a lot of cool stuff like that. We got a lot of good feedback, and we appreciate all the feedback.
Good stuff.
Yes, definitely. So this week is going to kind of be a little bit of a mix of who knows what.
Race reports and history. Some more history for you.
Yeah, might have some history, but it's not going to be a picture episode. So
No.
we're working on having another one next week though. So
Yeah.
All right, Ron, we've missed kind of Christmas and New Year's, not a lot of racing going on, but now it's back to normal. Everyone's racing.
Yep.
And we got some race reports and some race results. So let's get to them.
And there was a couple of races, over the holidays that we didn't get to because we were busy doing the history deal. So, So we're going to start off with the SCRA. They had a race December 23rd, I believe was the date, or December 30th. And they were out at Buena Park, California, as usual. And there was a Can-Am race, which Dale Yamashita was the winner with Duran Trujillo second, Brian Warmack third. And then in the F1 class, Sam Rackham won with Dale Yamashita second, and Brian Warmack was third in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then also on the weekend of the 30th of December, Texas Retro was at Dallas Slot Cars. And in the Can-Am race, it was in the center there is Gary Dean, and he was the winner of Can-Am. And in second was Casey Neuenbauer, and third was Bob Belhazen. I don't know if it's Hazen or Hazen, but Big Bob, as we call him. And then in the F1 race, Gary won again, and second was Casey, and third was Richard Hoffer. There on the right side of the screen as you're looking at it. And Retro Pro Angle Winder, it was Casey winning with Bob second and Richard in third. And then they had a stock car race last weekend, and Ed in the center there was your winner with Ricky here on the left second, and third was Dean Wolf. Then they had the BBFC Showdown at Buena Park Raceway. That was again in December on the 30th. And Foamy, Dennis Hill, was your winner, with the runner-up being Arthur Shaw. And they had a pretty good turnout, and they lowered the BBFC record there for drag cars. And then there was the GUR race down at the Raceway Biz in Melbourne, Florida. And in the Can-Am class, Brian Ambrose was your winner in the center. Second was Jeff Bonanno on the left, and Jay Gard was third. And in the GT Coupe class, a relaxed Brian Ambrose there in the center was your winner. And Terry Tawney was second, and Doc Doherty was third. And the last class they raced there that day was stock car, with Jeff in the center winning, Doc second, and Jay Gard was third. The same weekend in South Bend, Indiana, the Great Lakes Retro was at Thaser Raceway. And the Can-Am class, the winner was me, but I'm not in the picture. So second was Rick Stagan, and third was Zach Woods. And then in the LMP class, Zach in the center won, with Dennis Clark on the left second, and Mike Wanino third. And then last weekend, the 6th of January, Retro East was at the race place in New Jersey, and they raced, I got to find my notes here, so bear with me. They raced F1 on the Hurricane track there, and Jerry Herbert was the winner, with Chris Wendell second, Keith Libby third. And in stock car class, Jerry Herbert was the winner again, Dom Luango second, and Pat Skaggs third. And then there was the B&E Slot Sport Challenge, and they were at Mid-America. last weekend. And your winner in hobby stock was Rick Stagen with Dave Goss second, Ken Eisler third. And then they ran dirt late model on the oval with Jim Kreider the winner, Dave Goss second, and Rick Hill third. And also at Mid-America, they had the Great Lakes Intra on the same day. And as far as I could tell, they just ran 3 classes with, this was JRL. So Rick Stagen was the winner. Dale Leip was second. Chuck Gambo was third. In the Open 12 race, Chuck Gambo was your winner with Dale Leip second again and Rick Stagen third. And the last class was Open Group 12 with Chuck Gambo winning again, Gary Gaspard in second, and Dale Leip in third. And then the BRS last weekend was at HMS Speedway in Bellevue, Ohio, on the world's fastest American Blue King track. And in the Retro Pro class, I was the winner with Cap Henry second and Richard T was third. And then in the Can-Am class, I won with Cap second and Bud Bartos third. And I pulled off the sweep with a win in F1 with Greg Fox second and Bud Bartos third. And just one note on this deal, Willie Custer was the TQ in Can-Am and set another world record for Can-Am's on American Blue King track. So, and then in Retro Tokyo, they raced a couple weeks ago, and we just missed them on the show, so I thought we'd clean that up. So in their stock car class, it was Tibu winning with UG second, Camo third. Can-Am, it was Tibu winning again with Ryu second, Cacho third. And in GTC, Tibu won again, pulling off the sweep with UG second and Cacho third. And then Sunday. We'll go to our race calendar. And this weekend, we got the ORS Ohio Retro Series at Fast Tracks in Newark, Ohio. Or not in Newark, sorry. Fremont, Ohio. The NorCal Slot Car Association, they're having their annual endurance race at Fast Tracks in Rockland, California. It's a team race, handout motors. And then Mid-America, they have, or not Mid-America, but the Mid-American Hard Body Series is at the track in South Bend. You got FNRS Midwest at Pro Slots, Raceway in Hartford, Michigan. The Mid-South Racing Association is at American Adrenaline in North Carolina, and SCRRA is back at Buena Park Raceway for their last race on the King before the Checkpoint Cup race, which will be in January 26th through the 28th. So, and then on the weekend of the 20th, we got Retro East at Fast Tracks, Rocky Mountain Retro Racing Association at Southern Slot Car in Pueblo, Colorado. The BRS will be combo race along with Midwest Slot Car Series at Tri-State Raceway in Middletown, Ohio. And Penn, Ohio will be at HMS in Bellevue, Ohio that day. And the Penn Jersey Stock Car Series will be at Fast Tracks in Pennsylvania on Sunday the 21st. NorCal USRA will be at Slot Car Raceways in Roanoke Park, California, and they'll be racing wing cars. And the B&E Crosstown Challenge will be back at Chicagoland Raceway. So that's the next couple of weeks. And then 3 weeks out, you got Checkpoint Cup at Buena Park Raceway. You got GUR at P1 Raceway. New England Retro Racing Association at Modelville. Great Lakes will be at the track, and the OCC Ohio Challenge Cup Series will be at Tom Thumb in Columbus, Ohio. So that is race results and some race results, and
right,
what's coming up the next few weeks that we'll report on here at the show, on the show.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
Okay, so I kind of got a question for you, and this is probably something I should have brought up
Months ago.
It's probably an involved answer. But we got to talking about all the tracks, and a couple times we mentioned Ray Gardner, or
Right.
he had some American Raceways, and I was really wondering about the history of the TOA, the Track Owners Association,
Okay.
and I mean that was kind of gone before I was really into it. So I know you were around then. So, like, what exactly was the premise behind the TOA? Was it successful? Why did it go away? And thirdly, do you think that something like that, will there be a benefit to having something similar but maybe revised nowadays?
Okay. So a little bit of the history of the TOA. The TOA was actually started by Floyd Guernsey, the owner of Eagle Distributing at the time.
Okay. Because Floyd had a track at one time, right? He had a raceway.
Yeah, Floyd had a raceway. Floyd had Eagle Distributing, and he had the, if I remember right, the name was the Eagle Electric Arcade, which was kind of like an arcade facility.
And it was a King track, right?
Enid, Oklahoma, and they had a King track.
Okay.
And they hosted the annual Okie Open race in January of any given year. And then they also sold like some food and stuff there at that little entertainment center, let's say. So at some point, Floyd decided that there should probably be some kind of association for track owners. And he had like the first I wouldn't call it a show, but the first meeting was down at Eagle Distributing, and I think they rented a building off-site and maybe like a little local civic center or something. They had a get together.
You have like a rough idea what year this is?
I'm thinking 1991ish.
Okay.
91, 92, somewhere.
I was thinking late 80s, but okay, 91, 92, yeah.
And I could be wrong, but I know, like, I started at Parma in 1990, and there was no Track Owners Association. And within a year or two of me starting at Parma. So they had that first meeting, and they had a second meeting, I think, the following year. I think, again, it might have been in Enid, but I'm not 100% sure. But again, I can research this for you and stuff and get more detail.
Yeah, I know, yeah, but
so they had the second meeting, and they voted in a bunch of officers, and Lou Del Rosario, the owner of Elmsford Raceway, was the president of the TOA. I don't think that Ray Gardner was ever the president. He was more like the secretary, recorder, maybe the treasurer. I don't remember, but he wrote the monthly newsletter or the magazine, but it was more of a newsletter. But I mean, them things were several pages. And
so, how many tracks were in the TOA?
Again, I'd have to look that up, but I think at the time they didn't even have a 25%.
Okay.
If there was 100 tracks, there was only like 25 members, or if there was 200 tracks, there might have been just 50 members. So it wasn't very successful. I mean, it was successful in some ways and not so successful in other ways. Like, they never had, as far as I can remember, 50% of the raceways join the association. Okay. So, some people might say that's not a success, and some people might say that's a success. I don't know, because, I don't know how real organizations would look and say, okay, there's 10,000 people.
Right.
I don't know what their percentage of a membership would make them say we're a success. You know what I'm saying? So,
right. Yeah.
I think if you have 50% or more, that's kind of successful. 25%, I don't think that's so successful. So, but that's my opinion. So, they, well, I guess what's successful about it was the fact that, Ray wrote this book or magazine or newsletter. It was a newsletter is what they called it. And, it was, at times it was kind of like a gossip rag. I mean, like, there was a lot of times Ray would write things, maybe like, I wouldn't call it a rant, but he would write these complaints about products or companies or things happening in the industry that he wouldn't really let people know he's writing this stuff. And then when it would come out, or you get it in the mail and you'd read it, you'd be totally shocked if he was on the receiving.
So what was the overall point? I mean, what were they trying to accomplish?
Well, I think there was okay. I think the first thing, again, successfully, they somewhat opened a communication avenue between some tracks and raceways, and maybe the USRA or the organizations. But I think the point was, I don't know if there was ever really a written mission statement, but I think the thing was, if you had all these raceway owners in a group, they would have a bigger voice against some of the going on in the industry. Okay. So, when you think back to the early 90s, the internet's it's just kind of starting to come online. Everyone's kind of slowly getting on the internet.
Al Gore had just invented it.
Yeah. So basically, a lot of things changed, and, they had a yearly show. I'm trying to think. The last TOA show was probably, because I know in 95 it was in Missouri. 96, I believe, was in Indianapolis. The last TOA show was probably in 2002 or 3. So
okay.
They
had lasted like 10 years then.
Yeah, they had about 10 years worth of shows. And the last show or last 2 shows was held in conjunction with the Parma Challenge Cup Nationals in Cleveland, Ohio, when they had the Challenge Cup Nats there in a local hotel. So why did the TOA go away? Probably just because of lack of membership or lack of interest. And I don't really remember if Ray was in it right up till the end or not. But Ray was heavily involved for a long time.
Right.
And he spent a lot of time typing and writing information. And, there was, Ray shared a lot of good information, but towards the end of it, a lot of it came down to maybe stuff he had found somewhere and maybe just photocopied on and stuck it in the, business things or how to run businesses or things like that. I have to go back through the books, and I've got them all, but gotta get them in order again. But it was just like another avenue of communication. And
so do you think that that or something similar to that could be successful now?
Well, a lot of people always question the TOA. What are you going to do for me? Like if you were a potential member,
right?
What are you going to do for me? And in my opinion, the TOA really never had enough teeth to make a difference. For example, like, if you had 75% of the raceways and a manufacturer did something that the TOA disagreed with, those members could say, well, we'll boycott XYZ's products, or we won't sell their stuff in the store, or whatever. So, as far as like if somebody's doing something and you don't agree with it, they could talk about it, but what can they actually do other than come up with an agreement that let's all not buy from XYZ? But even with that, some people are going to still buy stuff because they need it, or maybe the only thing you can get at that time. If you look back to the recent deal with JK pulling out of the distributors, that'd be like a similar situation. So, but there was no organization to address it, and I don't know if there was an organization that would have changed anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I just don't. I guess, maybe with the right leadership and the right mission statement or whatever, maybe it could work. But
I feel like one thing that kind of aggravates me about slot cars is that you have 150 tracks or whatever, but there's no standardization anywhere in anything.
There hasn't been since it started.
Right. It's like, but like the American Raceway things, like they kind of tried that, right? Like they had a real nice like program and idea there.
Sure.
But it's like now it's like everyone just thinks that their way is the best. They're going to do it their way.
Right.
That's it. Like there's no standardization or like track fees or anything.
Well,
There's not even race fees or you know what I mean. Everything's just like so wild west. I feel like that somehow if we had people on the same page, that it would be better somehow. You know.
well, and there's been times where certain periods over the last 30 some years that I've been around that there has been sometimes there is a standardization, but even with that, it still never really works or takes off. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you said, well, it'd be nice if we had standardized entry fees everywhere. Well, you can't really do that because, I mean, you can do it, but the reason it doesn't really ever happen is because some raceways have way higher overhead than other ones. So they have to charge more.
Oh, I understand that. Yeah, it'd just be nice to see some kind of organization, and tracks working together rather than always trying to.
Well, right.
No.
I mean, and that's the thing too. Like,
or outdo each other or whatever,
Well, and I remember back in the days of like the TOA. I mean, like you would have, it was the TOA and it was the TOAA. So I mean, anyway, Track Owners Association was kind of the abbreviation for Track Owners Association of America. But nonetheless, that's what I've always said. I mean, most times you can't get two raceways within the same town to even work together to try and make it better for both, let alone each other. And, that's always been a problem in this industry because, I mean, it's somewhat of a limited market for raceways for customers. And a lot of times you got raceways stealing customers from other raceways. And I mean, I've seen it all, and I'm not saying anybody's wrong and I'm not saying anybody's right, but it always just winds up being a big mess.
Right.
So, but I mean, I just don't know. I don't know if it would work or not.
Right.
And, some raceways are so far spread out that they kind of like don't care what that guy's doing an hour or 2 hours away because it has no effect on them.
Right.
I think the biggest advice I give raceway owners would be just worry about your own business and not everybody else's business. Because even in today's, I mean, raceway owners complain about the mail order places, the raceways that sell mail order. And, there's a complaint about mail order, there's a complaint about direct sales, there's a complaint about this and that. No matter how hard you try, you can't control everything. You have no control over it.
But
people don't like, track owners don't like people buying stuff on eBay. Okay. But
right.
There's nothing you can do to stop it because if your customer goes and buys something on eBay, say he buys a brand new ready-to-run car to race in your raceway, and he comes to your raceway and he wants to run it, you can tell him, no, you can't run it here, but he's probably going to leave and never come back. So, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, it goes back to the 60s when all the department stores and everybody started selling slot cars, when the manufacturers dumped them off to the big department stores and stuff because slot racing's crashed and, distributors aren't buying the stuff because raceways are crashing, closing, but we've got all this stuff to get rid of. So now let's sell it to the retail outlets. Well, people would go down to the dime store or, mail order it from Sears or maybe go to Sears and buy it or anything and bring it to a track. And a lot of tracks told them, no, you can't run it here because you didn't buy it here.
Right.
Haynes, who, RH Distributing and had a raceway, he said he loved it when people brought their cars in they bought elsewhere because it brought new people into his raceway that he would have never, I don't care who you are, in wherever you live, people only know about certain things within usually a 2 to 3 mile max radius of where they live. Okay. So if something's outside that radius, they don't even know it exists because they don't see it in their normal driving or, shopping, you know what I'm saying? Like there can be stuff right a half mile from your house. You don't even know it's there because you're not paying attention, but you're not looking either. You know what I'm saying? So, but if little Johnny's at Sears with his mom and he's checking out these really cool little cars that he's never seen before, and he doesn't really know there's a track, and they buy one, now they got to find the track. They go find the track, and now the track's got a new customer. So I don't think that people go on. I don't think today people go on eBay and just buy a car, then go looking for a track. I think they know there's a track somewhere.
And then they're looking on eBay looking for a deal.
Looking for a deal, right?
Right.
So, I mean, then I've heard other raceway owners say that they loved eBay because people would buy junk off there, and then come in and wind up spending a lot of money,
yeah,
get it up to speed or get it running again, or maybe that's like
almost every time I've seen that, the person has to at least buy tires and braid or something,
And you got to buy track time,
right,
to run your car, and then sometimes they bring in something that's like, well, like we want to race. Well, that's not going to be competitive. Here's what the fast guys are running, and you wind up selling them a new car. So, again, I don't know if there's any right or wrong in it, but people like to complain about it. So,
right,
you got to make the most of it. And it's like I tell a lot of raceways when they complain about, eBay and stuff, like, well, what's that guy on eBay or doing mail order? What's he doing that you can't do other than you sitting down and spending time
and money to do it
and doing the same thing? I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's like Ken-O, okay? I mean, everyone always bitches about Ken-O, but you can say the same thing. I mean, what's Ken-O doing that 50 other people can't do?
Right, and that's exactly what I told one track owner when he complained to me about Ken-O, and, then he's been selling mail order ever since. So, again, what's that guy doing that you can't do?
Right.
It just takes time and energy, maybe a little bit of money, but it's just time and effort.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, and today too, I mean, back to the TOA thing, I mean, we live in an instant information age anymore. So I don't know that, a lot of stuff that you would get in the TOA newsletter, you wouldn't just normally find out there unless you went to a library or, picked up a magazine.
It's not quite the same now. I mean, yeah, I get that.
So, now you can go on and just Google any subject and come up with some kind of answer or direction, I guess. So,
right.
I don't know. I don't know if a TOA could work today or not. I mean, I figure there's between 150 and 200 raceways out there. And,
right.
You can say, well, they're all doing okay without a TOA. But if there was a new TOA, what would the TOA do for them?
Yeah.
Or for anybody? I mean, and I'm not knocking. I'm just saying that always becomes the question. What is the TOA going to do for me?
I think if they had something going where, like, I mean, obviously they would have to have a mission, right? And it would have to be like a valid goals.
Right.
One thing you could do to get people to join would, somehow if you get the distributors to agree to it, but, join the TOA and you can get 48 off instead of 45 off or something like that.
Right. Right.
Some sort of an incentive.
And I think at time there was times they offered incentives, but I don't know how well that worked.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. So switching gears, sort of.
Gears.
So in the last couple of weeks, there was a pretty big drag race happened at Indy Slots, I guess, over by you.
Yep. Innovative.
Innovative. The I don't know why in Indy Slots. Sorry.
Indianapolis.
Yeah. Indy Slots is long gone, right?
Long gone. Yeah.
What time they close? What year?
Oh boy. I'm going to say they probably were done.
It's been a while.
Yeah, they were done slot racing probably about at least 10 years ago.
I'm just used to that being an Indy, but.
Yeah, they went into more RC and finally kind of flushed the slots out of there. So.
All right, so Innovative in Indianapolis.
Yes.
They had a pretty big drag race. I believe it was called the Ultimate 64 Winter Challenge.
Okay.
And they had two separate races. The big bracket race, the winner won $7,500, and then they had a second race where the winner won $5,000.
Okay.
So now the race is put on by not by the racetrack, but like an outside promoter. Okay.
Okay.
And they use the entry fees and everything like that to pay the big purses, right?
Sure.
So why does that only work in drag racing is my first question. My second one is, now most drag tracks, period, pay back cash,
right,
or track bucks, and it's like an absurdly high number, 75, 90, 100% cash, right?
Yep.
Why do track owners just give money away? Like, and then we have to come in. We don't get shit, you know. Like we don't even get free track time next time we come.
Well,
Like, and as a business model, that's a horrible business model. You know what I mean? I mean, what if all the round track racers, we all just got together and said, nah, fuck it, we're not coming unless you give us 100% payback. They'd all close.
well, either they would close or they'd give us, or they'd start doing
So
payouts.
why is it okay to give them money, but not us?
Well, okay. I mean, again, this can be a pretty deep subject. I mean, you got to look at like the amount of investment a racer has in equipment. Like the whole deal is so kind of fragile and frail to begin with. Okay. Like,
Okay.
how many
So
people have you seen quit over kind of stupid little things?
sure, there's been 5 or 6 people quit over the Retro Hawk motor recently.
Well, recently, yeah. Okay. And how many guys quit over puppy dog motors? And
Sure,
how many
right.
guys have quit at your local raceway because, you know, they didn't.
I think round track racers have a much larger investment than the drag racers, and
Well,
we spend more money too.
right.
I mean, like to keep our car going because we have a lot more consumables.
Right. And I don't want to turn this into a us versus them thing, okay?
No,
But
I know.
I'm just saying, like,
Comparing.
you know, I mean, you know, you can again, it depends on a lot of things. But let's just say you're a local flexi car racer at the track, okay? You've got $30 in a chassis, and I mean, basically, you got about $100 in a ready-to-run car. I mean, a ready-to-race competitive car by the time you buy all the parts.
Yeah. See, I'm kind of tying this into the TOA thing, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like if there was some sort of TOA thing, they could all get together and agree that, listen, we're only paying drag racers, 50%.
Right.
You're getting track bucks,
Right.
But how it is now, it's like there's 4 drag tracks on 20 miles. One guy pays 50%. The next guy comes along, he's like, well, I'm going to steal their guys. I'm going to pay 60.
Right.
This guy comes along, I'm going to pay 70. And the fourth guy is like, I'm going to pay 100. And then all of a sudden they're all paying 100% because they're all fighting over everybody. But if they would just there was some sort of an agreement,
Right.
or a standard or something,
Well, if they all work,
there'd be none of that. Then people would just choose where to go.
well, right.
And that would be it.
And see, and basically, my opinion is that those tracks, instead of fighting with one another, if there's 4 tracks within a certain close area, they should form their own association and work together to benefit them, the owners,
Right.
together. Okay, so like, I mean, it's the same old deal. I mean, and I know, and every racer out there knows. There's some raceways. It don't matter if it's road racing or drag racing. There's some raceways they love to go to, and it has nothing to do with payout, but it's like the way they're treated while they're there. Or maybe this guy has parts on his wall, that guy doesn't have parts on his wall. The bathroom lights burn out in his bathroom, but his bathroom has an air freshener in it. I mean, there's all these like different reasons why some people like going one place other than the other place, even if the payout or whatever is equal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's kind of like being comfortable.
Right. Sure. Right.
So, like you said, though, but some raceway owners will pay out more or whatever to steal racers away from other places, or schedule races on top of the other place, to get everybody to come to their place on the same.
And I'm not saying like paying people is going to increase entries or anything like that.
No, right.
I'm just saying it seems like in general round track racers spend more money, but they get nothing in return. But if it's like, I don't know, it just never goes. It's like an unmentioned thing. I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, just basically from just a track owner's perspective, I mean, I don't understand why they do it.
Well, I guess if you
so much money,
so like the class that paid out $7,500. How many entries did they had? 64 cars, right?
I mean, I think there was some sort of a limit. I mean, I'd have to see.
Okay. Was there 64 cars? Was that the max?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. I would.
Okay. And then I guess I guess my next question is, what was the entry fee?
Well,
Because if it was $10,
it was a lot higher.
if it was $10 a car, they're only taking in $6,400 with 64 limit. Okay.
Okay, so there was 64 total weekend entries sold at $500 an entry.
That's some serious coin.
Right. Now, I don't believe they sold all 64 slots. But
Okay.
I think they got close. Okay.
All right. So 500 times 64 is $32,000.
Sure. Right.
And if they pay $7,500 to win, I mean, that's not paying out 50%.
No, but but there was a lot. Okay, so the main event paid $7,500 theoretically if all the spots sold. Right.
Okay.
The main event paid $7,500 to the winner, $2,000 to the runner-up, $750s to the semifinalists, $500 to the quarterfinalists, and $250 all the way back to the eighth finalists. Okay.
So is that eight at 250?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so that would be
$2,000. So then you have light money. Okay.
Okay.
Which is for best reaction time. Now that's an additional $40.
Just 40?
I believe so, to enter it, and then you had to pay $4 per car
to be in the light money?
Right.
Okay.
But if you won that, that's $5,000.
Okay. Well, we can't. Okay.
All right. And then the warm up race paid $5,000 to the winner, $1,500 to the runner up, $650 to the semifinalist, on and on.
Well,
right?
did they have to pay? Did they have to pay a separate entry fee for the warm up race?
No.
That was included.
Sure. Right. Correct.
Okay. So what did it pay out?
$5,000.
$5,000 to win the warm up. Okay.
So, and then $1,500 for the runner up.
Okay.
$650 for the semifinalists, $250 for the quarterfinalists, and $150 for the eighth finals.
So $850, that'd be another $1,200. Okay. So not counting the light money, okay, not just taking the light money out of it, because that sounded like you had to pay in separate to.
Sure, right.
Okay.
Right.
So based on that, like I said, they took in $32,000 if they sold all the spots at $500 a car, right? 64 cars.
Right.
So that they paid back. They took in $32,000 and they paid back $23,500.
Somewhere around there, yeah. I might be off somewhere, but yeah. So, okay, so do you think it would be? What if you took this format right into like road course racing? Do you think you could get 64 people to show up if you race them for like $20,000?
No.
Not even if you paid back to like top 15 spots?
Well, first of all, you'd have to get 64 people to agree on the same class of car and motor to run with to begin with.
Right, yeah. I get that.
Okay. So, I think people would show up at a chance to win $20,000.
Yeah.
But
obviously that's what the theory is here. The big, they went for the big, huge purse.
Right. And was that basically a bracket race?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could now see that's another interesting. Okay, you're talking drag racing, you're talking bracket racing. Okay, so basically, everybody's car is competitive because you're dialing in a time, and you're basically racing against the tree in the clock.
Sure.
So, in road racing, like 64 people. I don't see any slot racer paying a $500 entry fee, even with a chance to win $20,000. Okay,
I'd be all in.
Well, I know there'd be a few, but there wouldn't be that many. Okay.
No, I know. So, what Tracy pay like $10,000, and how many people came?
$10,000 for what?
What was his big retro race payout?
It wasn't $10,000.
$5,000.
I don't think it was. Well, yeah, it was up there.
I don't remember what it was.
It was somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000, I guess. But
sure. It didn't end up being a huge thing because
I don't even know if we had 30 entries.
Right. So,
Really
okay, so what if you made it a breakout race?
Well, I was just getting
it
to
really
that.
wouldn't matter,
Well, I
right?
think if you made it a breakout race, okay, then yeah, you might have more people take that chance because it's not about going fast. Again, you're racing against
Anybody can show up with anything.
right. And see, that's kind of one of my pet peeves lately because I see people writing these rules for these breakout classes for round track. Okay, like again, no, I'm not picking on anybody, but I see a set of rules that says we're going to run this and this and this, but you can only run an 1/8 inch axle. Well, okay, I've got an old car that's got 3/32. Why do I need to change it? Because if we're running breakout, it's not going to make a difference if I run a 3/32 axle or an 1/8 inch axle because I still can't go faster than whatever the set time is, or I'm not going to get my lap. Okay, and then it's the same deal like motors. You can run a bracket race or a breakout race, and say you can only use motors up to a certain price limit. You don't have to specify one motor. Okay, you could say you can run any motor that's $17 or less.
Right.
The whole thing is you got to run this speed or slower, or you're not going to count. You know what I'm saying? Like it don't matter. You could run a wing car. You know what I'm saying? You could run a wing. You could put wings on side dams on your body, and you could make your car super fast. But guess what? You still got to go down there and wait, or you're not going to count. And there goes your chances of winning. So, yeah, the whole breakout thing kind of cracks me up sometimes when I read some of the rules.
Right.
Because that stuff doesn't make a difference. If breakout's breakout, you know. But I think if maybe there was some kind of big breakout race, round racing, oval or road course or whatever, I think that has more potential of drawing a bigger crowd to it than, say, we're going to race LMP cars with FK motors with this body on this track. And, you know, it's $500 to enter, and you have a shot at winning $20,000.
Right.
I don't think you're going to get 64 cars.
Right.
Because I just don't see that kind of – I don't see guys doing – even if you said we're doing handout motors and handout tires and you take every advantage every guy would have, if you take it away from them, you know, the top guys are going to show up. And it's not saying there's a ton of top guys, but, you know. So I don't think like I know when I started racing, you know, we always raced when I started racing, we raced every week for cash money. I don't remember what the percentage was paid back from what was taken in. They just, you know, it was like 20 to win, 15 for second, $10 for third. We paid a $5 entry fee, and we were racing Womp cars. And then they raced a couple other classes of cars, faster, of course, and they might have paid 30, 25, 20, you know, but again, there was enough people there to where the track was making good money. But you know, I mean, when I was like, you know, I started racing and stuff, I mean, I was kind of all about the money, but then at some point I realized that, hey, stupid, you're spending way more here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So when it went to then like merchandise certificates, you know, you'd get parts and stuff, which that's good for the track because if a track pays cash, a lot of that money walks out of the store. Okay. If you pay out certificates, the money has to be spent in the store. Okay. So
if you pay out like $100 in track bucks, it's really only like
giving out $60.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
right. So you're making money on that, but at the same time, it got to the point where, you know, I was just like, I have no problem going to a race and racing for nothing because in the big scheme of things and down the road, I'm still spending more to go race. I'm not talking expenses. I'm just talking, you know, equipment, maintenance of the cars, tires, brakes, et cetera, et cetera. I'm spending more than I would ever win back.
Sure. I mean, in the drag racing deal, like if you have like a third party that wants to put on the race,
right,
front the money, because I think you know they take a cut of that, and then I think they pay the raceway,
right,
a rental fee or something,
Sure.
Like, I got no problem with that. But, like, I just feel like on a weekly basis that the tracks would be much better off if they didn't give away so much money. Not saying that I think we should be paid. I'm just saying that, like, I think that nobody should be paid.
Right, but at the same time, the tracks, if the tracks don't make money off hosting events, and they just don't make money, period, they're not going to last longer unless someone's got really deep pockets or they're breaking even,
Right.
But
if you're drag racing one night a week and you get 100 cars, which is doable,
right,
and it's a $5 entry fee,
right,
okay? And then you go and you give away 300 of that in a payback,
right.
Well, damn, I mean, you're giving away like $15,000 a year,
right.
Like,
Yep. You better hope your rent's $1,000 or less a month, because
right. I mean, you're giving away. You'd be easily giving away your rent every month.
Right. Right. But it is what it is, and
I know.
It's up to each individual raceway owner and race promoter or whatever to decide what they're going to do, but what they want to pay out. And again, like I always say, there's good and bad in everything. So, if you don't pay out enough, that's bad. If you pay out a lot, that's good in one way because you get racers. But, I mean, I think you answered your own question. You said there was 64 spots, 500 spot, and they hadn't sold all 64 spots.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how many they had, but, I mean, it was still a lot. I mean, they might,
And, of course, if they don't fill the field, then the payout is a sliding scale to where the track's not going to lose money in that deal.
Well, yeah. Well, the track was never going to lose money even if one person showed up. Because the track's wasn't even in that deal.
Right.
But.
And it's no knock on Innovative Slots or anybody. It's just using it as
No, not at all. Just kicking it around.
Again, it goes down to some raceways have lower overhead than other raceways. So some raceways can't afford to do things that other raceways can't.
But drag racing is pretty hot right now. I mean, there's a lot of drag strip only raceways in the country.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty banging right now.
Right. So
because you can put up a drag strip in a smaller space, and it's a lot easier for the average person to put one up and figure out how to run it, and they cost less to maintain and braid and I've known, and it goes back to kind of like why hard body racing is taking off right now for us. Is the cars look so realistic.
Right. Well, I think you look at like I said, what I was going to say was there's a lot of places that had I've seen them put in drag strips, and they just never took off. Like they could never make drag racing go. And then you go to a place and you hear there's this raceway, and you go there and all they got's a drag strip, and they've got all these people running. I mean,
right. It's very rare that you find a raceway that has a successful round track and drag program. They exist, like you mentioned, Dallas Slot Cars.
Right, that's one. Fast Eddie's is another one.
Right, but for the majority, they seem to either be one or the other, and it seems to be whatever the raceway owner is into is kind of which program is better or not.
Right. So, again, and see, here's the difference too, in my opinion, between the drag racing and the round track racing. Okay, like so, you and I are both pretty active on Facebook. We look at a lot of pages, and some of the prices guys get for the drag cars is like, wow.
It's insane.
And they hold the raffles, and you got all these people on there bidding for them, or
like $300, $400, $500, $600, no problem.
Right. I mean, how much can you get out of a used flexi car, no matter how nice it's painted? $50?
It may be more than that, but
right. But I'm just saying, there's more resale value in these drag.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Than there is in the road course cars.
Absolutely.
By far. And here's one thing about drag racing. Nothing, if you're bracket racing or maybe index racing, nothing gets obsoleted.
It's very true.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, like
The Parma Edge chassis is very popular, and how old is that?
right. Okay, so it's the same deal. I mean, they can quit making. You can run a motor they haven't made in 20 years in bracket racing.
Sure, right. Nothing
Okay.
wears out. I mean,
And
tires might dry rot over time.
right. Well, I'm just saying, nothing gets obsoleted unless you're running heads-up classes. But that's a whole different.
And that's not really too popular.
Right. Yeah, class
No.
racing's not that healthy.
Right.
But bracket racing, and I think you can see it kind of in slot racing where, you got these bracket races or, breakout races on round tracks, road courses, and they do pretty good. So again, you can walk in with whatever, and you still got to. I mean, I think if you look at what the one track in Tennessee now is doing, heads up, hard body racing. And I think someone made a comment. They went from having 19 guys, now they're down to 9 because it's not breakout.
Right.
So
right.
Breakout, you retain everybody. And I'm not saying that I'm saying I'm for breakout races. I'm not saying I think it has a time and place everywhere.
Sure, yeah, it's got good merits, and
it's not the
solution. You're a raceway owner. I mean, why not run both?
Right. That's what I say. Have another night and do breakout racing and see what happens. Okay, and if in a very short time you go from having 10 to 20 guys for your weekly flexi race, and you start this breakout thing, and you go from 0 guys to 40 guys.
Right.
Well, you're going to prove to yourself which really is maybe better. So
and see, another thing that I think is helping the hard body racing is that they all seem to be running a standard rule set.
Pretty close.
And then you go to say, okay, well now we're going to take away the breakout. Well then now everyone's got to get new cars and all that, and that's not that popular.
But back to your standardized rules again, okay?
All right.
Why, if we're running, let's just say we're taking a King track and we're running a 9-second breakout. The rules say I got to run H&R chassis. Why can't I run a B&E chassis or build my own chassis?
Okay. Well, I'm not saying the particular rules. I'm just saying that each track is going by the same guidelines.
Pretty close, right? But I'm just saying
that helps.
Right.
I see what you're saying. If it's a breakout, it's a breakout. Why does it matter what's under it or whatever?
Right.
As long as it's a hard body, right? Or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, I see I know what you mean.
Yeah. Why does it matter? And I have no problem with the tire rules, because it adds the realism to it.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. No problem with that. But I think when it comes to chassis, and like when I see rules like you have to run the Pro Track chassis, which hasn't been made for 20 years. Well, where in the hell do you buy one of them at? So if I show up with my H&R car, what does it matter if I race against your Pro Track car and we both have to do 9-second or slower laps? What does it matter?
Right. Oh, I know. I know. Yeah.
And I'm not knocking anything or anybody. I'm just
no, we're just talking. Just
common sense. It was like the one conversation last week about. I got to think about this for a second. Retro rate. Why would we put a $14 or $12 motor in a $100+ chassis? Okay, like we're racing real chassis, we should be running real motors.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. And then I reversed that discussion into, well, then why don't you take your $200+ Eurosport cars and put $14 motors in them? Because there's really no difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, in this class, you can have a $200 car, but you can run $400 or $500 motors in them. That's okay. But this chassis that costs $100+, well, you can only run $14 motors in them. I think that's a little hypocritical a little bit. So, you know what I'm saying? Like you could put FK motors in Eurosport chassis. They're not going to go as fast, but they would be fun cars. And it might apply to more people. Not saying it's going to get you more people, but if you're going to use that application on one side or one class that is popular, then why don't you want to do that over here? But of course, I didn't get an answer. The crickets are still chirping. So.
Well, the one that gets me is all the people that say, "Oh, I thought this was supposed to be cheaper than builder motors," and you probably disagree with me with this.
Well,
I think anybody who says that FK Motor Racing is not cheaper than builder motor racing is nuts. Okay, because and there's one guy that brought I'm not going to name any names, Shane, but okay. So Shane always says this, but. How many decam motors? I want to go to CCANs. How many decam motors did he have at the Nats this year?
Probably 20. I can't give you an exact number.
And how much are they a motor? $100 a motor?
Yeah, probably roughly 80 to 100 a motor.
Okay, so if let's just say they're 80. What's the math?
Well, if they're 80 and he's got 20, that's like $1,600.
Okay. Now, how much?
I want to make sure I'm right. Yeah, $1,600.
Okay. So how much would it cost to buy 50 Retro Hawk motors?
If you bought 50 times 12, $600.
How is this a question? What's cheaper?
Well, here's the difference. The initial investment is more money with built motors. But
sure.
in the long time costs of
no way.
And things, build your own's cheaper.
No way.
Yep.
No. How?
Yep.
By the time, okay. Let's say you got a good.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do that. No.
Once you get a good builder motor, it's not like it just is good forever. Like
okay.
You gotta pay to have it rebalanced.
Okay, let's do this.
To and from arm reconditioning. There's brushes. There's springs.
Okay.
New bearings.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's go back to like the old build your own 16D Chinese motors. Okay. You paid $12 for a motor. You tore it apart.
Yeah.
Cut your comm, zapped your magnets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The only things you really ever bought was brushes and springs. So basically, it's $20 motor by the time you brush it and spring it. Okay.
It might be good. It might not be.
Well, and you can buy a bunch of those $12 FK motors. They can be good. But let's take that out of there. Let's just look at. I got $20 in a motor.
Sure, and it's a great motor.
Okay.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if it's good or bad in this case. Okay.
Okay. No, I know what you mean.
That's immaterial.
Yeah.
If I go up and buy a $12 Retro Hawk motor, or doesn't matter. It could be a Falcon 7 motor. How many races will I get out of that motor?
10.
Okay. If I get 10, that's $1.20 a race.
I mean, okay. A lot of people say online, I get 3 or 4 races. Whatever. I get 10 easy. So that's just me.
If you want to use your number 10, fine. That's $1.20 a race.
Sure.
Okay. If I take my Death Star motor and I get 20 races out of it for my $20, that's $1 a race.
Okay.
Then I can take it apart, cut my comm, and put brushes and springs in it for another $5 or $6, and run it another.
Yeah, but okay, let's be true here though. Okay, because then that means you would have to buy a $200 comm lathe, right? So
I understand that.
So again, you're offset, right? So, but even if you didn't buy the comm lathe,
you can send your comm out and get it trued for a couple bucks.
Oh yeah, plus postage and back, you're gonna be out.
So
That's $10. That's $10.
It's not $10 to get your comm trued.
Okay, first class mail is like $265 each, $260, $275 each way. Okay, so we'll just round down. We'll say $4. What's the comm lathe? I mean a comm cut.
Well, if you send more than one armature,
no, we're just doing one.
Okay, if you're just going to do one,
charge me to cut my comm and balance my arm.
If you sent one to me, I'm going to charge you like $5. That's
okay,
good.
Plus $4 postage. We're at $9. We got $5 in brushes and springs. We're back.
Wait, hold on.
We bought another FK motor.
Okay, but you got an FK motor for the same money that you're only going to get 10 races out of. I spent the same money, going to put it back together. I'm going to get 20 races. I'm going to get twice as many races out of the same money.
Okay, But here's where the dynamite blows your theory up.
All right, let's hear it.
Nobody buys one motor of anything.
In any kind, it doesn't matter in any class. Okay.
So it doesn't even matter. Like how many amount of races you get out of one is irrelevant because you spent so much money to find the same thing.
Right. But if you want to play the game,
do you want to spend $2,000 to find a good one, or do you want to spend $600 to find a good one?
Doesn't matter. That's up to each individual person because just as I know with current FK motors, some guys only buy a couple at a time and other guys buy 50 at a time.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
So you can't stop. It's no different between tires, and it's no different between.
Right. But my point is, it's not. I mean,
chassis.
FK motor racing is still cheaper in the end.
No.
How?
Not overall.
Okay. I spent $1,600 on 20 builder motors.
Yeah.
Okay. And you spent $1,600 on 20. I spent $600 on 50 FKs.
Yeah.
How many more races are you going to have to run your builder motors than me to make up that $1,000?
I don't know. Do the math. I mean, if you bought 50 motors, okay.
Yeah.
If you bought 50 motors, you're telling me you bought 500 races worth of motors.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
But see, here's the problem with your 500 motors. If you buy 50 motors, you buy 50 motors and only 10 are raceable. Now you got $50 in a motor.
Possibly. I mean,
there's no possibly about it. It's simple math.
If that was the amount, they were good.
It's like when I read the guy who says, I bought 10 motors and I got 2 good ones. All right, so it cost you $60 a piece for those 2 good motors because you're not going to use those other 8. You might use them to practice. Those have no racing value. Those are shits that's going to sit in your box. You're not even going to race because you know it's not competitive. But you have these 2 motors that you spent $120 to get, those 2 motors, so that was $60 a motor. And you're going to get 10 races out of them each.
Okay, so 20. Sure.
I mean, we can argue this all night long.
I know.
Okay. And I don't think
initial investment, pound for pound, 20 of one versus 20 of the other, FK's cheaper.
No.
Yes.
No.
There's no way you can deny it.
No.
Okay. If you got by 20 built motors and 20 FK motors, which one's cheaper? Which one's cheaper to buy initially?
The FK motor's cheaper to buy initially.
Like I said, initial investment.
Depends on how many.
Motors are cheaper.
Okay.
But if you want to go like 10-year long term, okay, maybe 10 years into the future, built motors, maybe, but not really because they obsolete anyway.
Right. It just depends. It depends on how many you buy to begin with versus because, like, you could say, okay, like for example, if you want to compare a motor to an FK motor, okay, you wouldn't say, okay, these $100 CCAN motors, built motors, that's not even the equivalent product. So you would want to compare a $12 FK motor to, like, say, a $40 built puppy dog or $50 built puppy dog or big dog or Group 12 because that's comparable. I mean, puppy dog to Retro Hawk's comparable. You know what I'm saying? And even if you built those,
FK motors were cheaper than puppy dogs in the end.
Right. Do what?
And FK motors were cheaper than puppy dogs.
Initial investment, yeah.
I think in the end, period.
No. Because I'll tell you why. I mean, you go to the endurance race at Columbus, and you'd run a 6-hour race on one motor. Okay, like one year we went and we ran the 6-hour race. We ran 3,000 laps. It basically boiled down to 10 300-lap races. Okay, so, but I ran that motor another 20 races, not another 10. I ran that motor another 10 races before I ever pulled it apart and rebuilt it. Okay.
Okay. I
rebuilt it and I started all over. You got any Retro Hawk type motor that's going to go?
Well, yeah, they do. They do. Retro East does 6-hour enduros, and they run.
They switch motor. They change motors. Those guys change their motors.
Not all the time. Some of them run the whole time.
Read the race report last year.
I'm not talking about last year. a
Year
specific,
before.
but they have, okay?
Yeah.
And it's just like the Columbus drill. Not every team ran the same motor every entry every year ever run.
I'm not saying I ran the same motor 2 years in a row.
I'm just saying if there's 8 teams, I mean every year all 8 teams didn't run the same motor. I mean they were always switching motors. Same way with FK enduros. I mean some people were on the same motor, some people switch motors.
No, what I'm saying is, no, the only people that change motors in a race is if they had a problem with a motor. And I don't remember ever seeing many guys have problems with motors. I mean, the last year we ran the Columbus Enduro, we changed our motor because we bent the can on it when the car got ridered. But other than that, I'd run 4 years prior to that and never changed the motor in the car during the race.
Right.
Motor went the entire distance. And then I'd keep racing it after that until it started to slow down or the brushes got way too short. It'd be time to rebuild it. So, like I said, you can argue this 9 ways of Sundays. I mean, so
for me, for as much racing as I do and for the classes I race, FK motor racing is cheaper for me.
Okay.
Because it's just for what I race and the amount of times a year I race.
But I still think it's just like everything else. There's still room for built motor racing if you have enough people that want to do it. Sure,
but how many people out there that want to race builder motors?
Don't know, but at the same time, if you don't if you don't show that to people and they never know about it, they might find an enjoyment in that, and that might keep them interested.
Sure, possibly so.
I mean, you look at
nobody's showing them that because there's not as much interest in it. That's why there's nobody showing it.
Again, it's like drag racing. What would you say the percentage of drag cars out there have in them? Built motors versus some kind of sealed up motor you can't work on.
Bracket racing or what?
Bracket racing.
I mean, probably 50, at least 50%.
There's more guys working on their motors than there is.
I don't know.
They don't wear their motors out like we do.
Right.
You know. I mean, for years I would go to a race, say with 10 Group 12 motors to a box stock race. And I wind up racing maybe 2 or 3 motors out of that 10. But when I came over the race, I rebuilt all 10 motors. I didn't have to rebuild the 7 that I didn't race, but I wanted everything fresh and the same when I went next month. So,
anybody who says they're building one builder motor and they're going to go be competitive with it is delusional.
I got one. My retro angle winder car.
Yeah, that's not quite the same. That's not what I'm talking about here.
What do you mean? It's a built motor. I mean, I built it at the beginning of the season. I've run 3 races on it, and I haven't tore it apart yet.
Okay, well, sure. Well, I could go buy a Retro Hawk 7R off the wall and win the, Midwest Bumblefuck Retro Series race. I mean, it'd say the same thing, but
don't say it can't be done when it's being done. That's all I'm saying.
But I'm talking about to a big race. Okay, I'm talking about a big race.
Big race.
If you're going to go be competitive on a regional or national level. Ain't nobody bringing one builder motor.
No, nobody's bringing one motor.
Nobody bringing one FK motor. Either.
No, it's just like when you have a handout race. Most guys buy the most motors they can buy.
Sure,
on a given day.
Absolutely.
So, moving along.
All right, we'll just agree to disagree.
No. I mean, it's like
I wasn't picking on Shane. I just saw he made that comment the other day.
Right. It's just like I said. You can argue it either way in 7 different ways of Sunday. I mean, like some people are very strong in their opinions, and some people, aren't. But
sure, and I race builder motors. Like if there's going to be a big series, and that's what they're going to run. All right, I'm in. Let's go. Right. But it's just not as frequent as it used to be.
Okay, so moving along because we got to wrap this up. But
all right, yeah.
More history for everybody. Yesterday, January 9th, was the 50th anniversary of the creation of the USRA, the United Slot Racers Association. So back on January 9th of 1968, that's when the USRA was formed as a group in Southern California. It was not a national group. It was a regional group. And over time, it became a national group. And that'll be more of an in-depth deal. Because like I told you last week, we talk about some of the big races of the 60s. And, you had USRA and you had ARCO and you had the car model and rod custom rules and MINRA, and you had all these different like kind of little groups. But the only group that has stood the test of time for 50 years has been the USRA. Love it or hate it.
Who runs Builder Motors?
Well, they run a few handout classes, or one handout class. And they would probably be bigger if they ran one more handout motor class, but that's another debate that can be argued forever and ever too. But and then
well, wait a minute. Why would it be better than handout motor race if build your own motor racing is better?
Because if you have a national event and you want to get participants there, you are better off to run one or more classes that are closer to what the raceways in America run on a weekly basis.
I agree with you, yes.
Than to run classes that aren't raced anywhere on a weekly basis.
Meaning Builder Motors.
Well, it could be Builder Motors or, right. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I know. I do like that the Nats, I think that their best chance for making a is a handout motor. For sure.
Oh, yep.
It makes it easier for everybody from everywhere else to come and race.
Right.
I agree with that.
And if we go back to December 12th, 1967, which is just a little over 50 years ago, because I kind of missed that on that show, or that week. That would be this year would be, or December 12th, 2017, was the 50th anniversary of the first Slot Car Nationals, which would have been the ARCO Nationals at Williamsburg Raceway in Atlanta, Georgia. And I kind of incorrectly last week said something about Robert E. Lee Raceway doing that race in Memphis. But the ARCO Nats was like the first, Slot Car Nationals on the weekend of December 12th, 1967. So, it's not recognized as USRA because USRA wasn't even in existence then. It was run under ARCO rules, which was champion slot racing rules, and some of the series out there ran those rules. It's kind of an interesting story about how this stuff kind of came together. But
yeah, and you'll have a lot more on this next week, right?
Well, if it's not next week, it'll be the week after. But
soon, yeah. No, we'll have a lot of USRA history, which I'm looking forward to. I think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, because basically, technically speaking, the first two kind of USRA nationals really weren't USRA nationals, but that's for the next show. So
yeah,
we'll go more in depth on that one.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So
I'm excited for that one because I feel like I'm going to learn a lot, just like I did on the history of the tracks.
Okay, did you learn a lot?
I did, yeah. I loved it. I think it was awesome.
Well, maybe next week we'll have a test, and we'll see what you remember.
Oh, I haven't had a test in years.
Okay. Well, you just tested my nerves a little bit, so.
Why'd I test your nerves?
I'm just teasing you.
Hey, it's all good. You can
all good, I know.
Everything.
We just like to have fun here.
Yeah, we didn't motherfuck each other or.
Oh, there you go, dropping the bombs again.
We're not going to go post evil pictures of each other or anything, whatever, Talk, get along. That's what the show's about,
You didn't hear about that, I Hate Ralph Facebook page? It's a secret group.
Oh, no, I didn't. Now that you told me about it, though, I'm going to have to log on, create a fake profile or something, try to find it.
Yeah, well, you can just maybe borrow someone's cell phone and look at it.
Yeah. So, speaking of, I will say that all this, a lot of people are tired of talking about the Hawk Retro motor, right? But man, I really think it really brought a lot of people into Slot Car Race Talk on.
Oh, dude, it brought over 250 people, man. It's
yeah, holy cow! And people are posting. You get all kinds of new people on there now posting how-tos and
yep.
People talking about drag race and stuff. It's been it really was like a boost, sort of.
Yeah.
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 Good. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people, and now they're talking about kind of like positive stuff, and
Right.
there's one new guy in there. It's just like asking a zillion questions, and
Right. Yeah, he won my raffle, actually. I
oh, he
think.
did.
Yeah,
Okay.
this guy was talking about one of the new guys has been posting in there won my raffle, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, it's been kind of fun. So
cool.
okay.
All right. Well, what's the secret word of the show?
Oh man. Well, let's just do USRA because it's the 50th. Happy birthday! I'm not going to sing, but happy birthday, USRA. 50 years yesterday because we taped the show on Wednesday. So January 9th, 1968.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
So
It's a long time, man. It's a long
yeah,
time.
and like I didn't kind of realize that until I don't know, probably a month ago. It was kind of like, wow, USRA's been around for 50 years.
Well, it's like Israel, and when they
Yeah,
have the Nats, they're like happy 26th anniversary. They're like, Chris said, well, geez, nobody even realized it was the 25th anniversary last year.
right. So yeah, I mean, what's and we'll show this on when I do all this history. But I mean, it's kind of funny when you see the original USRA membership list in 1968. How many of them guys are still actually racing today? There's not a bunch of them, but there's
I bet I
there's
bet
4 or 5 guys, maybe 6.
Larry Kelly, is he one?
No, because this was a Southern California group
Oh,
that became a national deal. But
okay.
Brian Warmack, Gil Gunderson.
Gil Gunderson, yeah.
We'll leave the rest for later.
Gilbert?
No, I don't know if Lee Gilbert was on there or not.
Okay.
But
well, we'll wait till next week.
Or the week after. But
Or the week after, whatever. Yeah. Okay,
So,
cool.
all right.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. Give us a like on the Facebook page if you haven't. And if you're not a member of Slot Car Race Talk, check us out there because we post the videos in there too, and to the Between the Lanes page and on YouTube. So,
Yeah, YouTube, the channel is Slot Racer.
Slot Racer, yep. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Goodbye.